Hey guys, we are back for another Marvel Legends review. As surprising as that sounds, I know I haven't done very many of those lately, and we are taking a look at one of only a handful of figures I'm going to be getting from the Infinity War Thanos wave, just because, I don't really care about the movie figures, so we're going to look at some of the comic figures instead. First one we've got is Songbird. This is one that I have actually been looking forward to. I like the character. I've been a fan of the character for a while. As usual, she comes in that standard Marvel Legends box, big window. We've got our Avengers logo down there on the bottom since it's tied with Infinity War. We've got artwork on the side, and then the back has a shot of the figure along with the lineup and that Thanos Build-A-Figure. So let's pull her out and take a look. Alright guys, so here is Songbird out of the package, and she was, the 2016 fan vote winner for Marvel Legends figure consideration, and I personally voted for her. I was very excited to actually get this figure. I'm a fan of Songbird. I like the design. I was really drawn in by this enormous energy effect that she comes with. It has to be the biggest thing in Marvel Legends, easily one of the biggest energy effects I have in general from any line, even bigger than most of the Tamashii Nation stuff outside of the extra packages that they offer. And there's some good here, there is some bad here, and there is some infuriating here. So I've got her kind of elevated right now. You can see she's not standing flat on the ground. I'm using a Tamashii Nation's stand with a custom smaller base for the figure, because ultimately this figure is really designed to be put into a flying pose, and this is kind of her flying pose because that's the energy effect that you see when she flies in some fashion. And then she's got these hands, and I'll talk about those in a minute. I do have to say that I like the overall look of this figure, but like I said, there is some infuriating stuff going on here, so I'm going to take her off the stand and we're going to take off the energy effect, and then we'll do articulation, paint, and sculpt, and then we'll look at that big hunk of pink plastic. So the figure you see here is the entire package outside of that energy effect. It's a basic standard Marvel Legends body for the most part, female body, and again, like usual, I'm not going to say where any of this stuff comes from because I'm likely going to get it wrong. I seem to be doing that a lot lately with my guesswork, because I don't have a lot of Marvel Legends female, certainly not enough to rummage through and find parts and all that. But it's basically your standard Marvel Legends female body. She's got a couple floating pieces on her, and she's got some interesting design choices. There are some interchangeability issues for me, and I'll get to what I mean by that. And then there's some articulation problems as well. So the head can swivel, it can look down, but it can't really look up. This armor piece gets in the way, and then the hair just gets in the way when the back. When you get that energy piece on, it's even worse. The armor again gets in the way with the arms, so it's going to do something like that. No bicep swivel, single jointed elbow, hinged and rotating wrists. We've got a diaphragm cut so she can swivel side to side. She can go back, but she can go forward only slightly. And then there is leg split. Not too bad, but not great. Really high kick. She can go back, just barely. Thigh cut right where the design meets the joint, which looks really good. It hides that cut a little bit better than had the joint been in the middle of that design, which I always hate. We've got double jointed knees, and then we have got rockers and hinges down there at those ankles. So as far as articulation, she's kind of standard, but she does have some issues with the armor impeding certain joints. Now, as far as paint and sculpt and her overall look and feel, I actually do like the way she looks. I'm a fan of the character. I'm a fan of the design. There are some maybe inconsistencies here and there, but for the most part, I think she looks pretty good, and I only have one real gripe when it comes to her actual physical form here. I like the floating armor pieces despite the fact that they do get in the way. They are integral to her character, so they have to be there. We've got the designs on the chest, and it actually looks really nice. It's painted very cleanly, the white paint there. We've got the blue stripes and like kind of the swirl designs on her legs. They look very nice. I like the gold bands here. The only real problem I have there is that the gold on the paint, because these are painted, doesn't really match the kind of pearlescent metallic type plastic they use to cast the armor pieces, and it's quite obvious that they should be the same color, but they aren't. The hair looks good. I do think that it's a little sloppy on these parts on the front of the figure, but overall I like the design and it looks good enough. The face I think is well done. It's a very attractive face. She's got those hot pink lips, the green eyes, and overall I'm happy with the way that looks. My real issue in terms of, what I said I have a gripe about are these hands. Not because they aren't functional or because they don't fit the character. They absolutely do. But it's almost as if there was one specific thing that this figure was meant to do, and that is to be put into a flying pose. And that's fine on its own, except that you don't get flight stands with a Hasbro figure. And if you wanted to have her in any kind of real fighting pose, you need some other hands. These aren't going to cut it. As far as I'm concerned, these do not fit. They are, fine as far as hands go, but when you want to have her in a flying pose, she's kind of doing like this kind of number right here, and she'll have the energy effect on her back. She just has her hands down to the side. That said, they do work, but I would have loved to have gotten another set of hands with this figure, because I don't always necessarily want to have her displayed with that humongous energy effect. So I think that is a definite miss, because she should have included another set of hands, because like this, that just doesn't look right. Now here's the big thing for this figure. Obviously, the energy effect. It pegs onto her back, and just like any standard Marvel Legends, got that peg hole, and it has a lot of detail through it. It's just a big molded piece of pink plastic, but as you can see in the light there are a lot of kind of striations, feathering almost to make it look like wings a bit, but it also looks like it's kind of coming at you like a big burst of energy. Her hair does have to sit on the outside of the energy, as best I can tell. You can't really get it to go in there, because as you can see, there's no place for her hair to go. So one of the things I mentioned was articulation problems. She can't move her head now, and she can't really move her head down because of the bangs or whatever these are. I don't know. Just the strands of hair that come down. Those aren't bangs. What am I saying? And then you can't really move her hair up. So one of my main gripes with once you have this on her back, normally what I would expect to do is to tilt her head back, and you can have her kind of flying while looking this way. But right now she's just looking at the ground. You can really force it, and you can make it kind of do one quick notch, but it really doesn't like to do that. It also is very heavy. It weighs quite a bit, especially in comparison to the figure itself. I would almost say that they weigh exactly the same, and it presents a lot of stability issues. I mean, you can see she wants to just fall right over, and if you have her standing legs kind of straight, then it doesn't hit the ground, which I really am a fan of. I think that's nice, so you can get her standing normally there. Or you can, if you have issues, maybe move one of her legs a bit forward, and then she kind of leans forward a bit, and you can rest it on the ground a bit. So there are ways to get around the stability issues with this thing. It's just rather infuriating. This is the infuriating part for me. I like the way it looks. It's very much an integral thing for this figure, for this character, so I'm very glad they included it, because it's a lot of plastic. Let's be honest, there's a lot of plastic there, but it does present issues when you're going to actually pose the figure. And one of the main things, like I've said, is that this is clearly meant to be displayed in a flying pose, but there's no stand or anything included. Not that I would expect there to be with a Hasbro figure, but it does present display issues when she's only really meant to go one way, and you need third-party products to do that. Or you have to make something yourself, I suppose. So what it comes down to for this figure is ultimately that I like the way she looks. I'm a fan of the character, but it is a frustrating toy to play with. She looks nice. She has a good design, but there are some elements that, like I've mentioned, will hinder her articulation. Not to mention she only has the very specific flight pose style hands, and the energy effect will basically knock her over. If you look at her wrong and she's not posed correctly, she's gonna fall over. So you just might have to play around with her. Once you do find that sweet spot, so to speak, it will work just fine, but getting to that might be a little more frustrating than you had anticipated. Overall, she's a decent figure, but she definitely has some issues. So that's going to do it for this look at the Marvel Legends Songbird figure from Hasbro. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, guys. Thanks for watching, and until next time.